Hello, my friends. I am here at CR Onsrud in North Carolina. I am with my friend Ken. We are here to talk routers, maybe the leader, maybe the global leader in routers, and we're going to learn a little bit more. Ken, can you tell me more about the CR Onsrud router?
Yes, thanks, Tony. So we build industrial routers here. What I've found since being here at CR Onsrud is there's basically three types of routers in the industry. You have your hobby router, your commercial router, and your industrial router. Hobby routers are good for arts and crafts or even for educational purposes. You know, they start very low and get up into the $20,000 range, if you will. Then you transition into the commercial router, which is a little bit heavier duty than the hobby router. You know, good for light duty cabinet work and stuff like that. Typically from the $25,000 to $70,000 range. Then you get into the industrial router, where you have industrial controls like FANUC that we use, heavily built, high speed, high productivity, high RPM, high horsepower spindles, and that's where we come in.
That's amazing. And tell me a little bit more about each category. So the first one I want to talk about is the hobby router. So this is the first step into getting into these three types of routers, ending up in the industrial router, correct?
Absolutely, and hobby routers do serve a purpose in the industry. You know, one, educational purposes. Two, basically starting your business, getting into the industry. Hobby routers can cut the same materials we can. They just can't cut them as fast and as heavy as we can. And you work your way up through the progression from there.
So we're talking about the educational process of understanding how a router works, understanding the programming of a router, and still being a professional machine that just maybe needs to go a little bit slower than something in the industrial range, right?
Exactly. I'll give you an example. So we cut melamine, 3/4 melamine at over 1,700 inches a minute. You're not going to be able to do that on a hobby router. So yes, you can cut melamine. You're just not going to be able to do that full depth of cut at 1,700 inches a minute. That's
and that
where
makes
the
sense.
Difference is.
That's why you pay the
Exactly.
big bucks for the heavy duty ones, right?
Yes, because you might have the jobs and you need to get production out the door.
That makes perfect sense to me. So we've got this hobby router, starts around $3,000, which is a great price for someone who wants to get started, on up to around $20,000 before we move into the next range.
Exactly.
And this thing is a professional machine ready to go. You know, it's great for the arts and crafts side of things, but someone else can get into anything that they want to do. And I understand that maybe a lot of sign makers utilize this machine as well.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of sign materials made out of thin plastic, thin aluminum, stuff like that. So that's where those machines fit very well in. There are people that start their business and work their way through the line. They start off with a hobby router, start making product, work their way up to a commercial router, and then they eventually get into the industrial routers.
As far as learning the program there, how easily is that software able to transfer to the next model up or the model up after that? Because you mentioned FANUC on the industrial models already, right? So if I learn on the hobby model, can that information be easily transferred into programming on something like a FANUC?
Exactly. So we don't build the hobby routers or the commercial routers here. We just build the industrial routers. But you learn the basics through that process. So a lot of the magic comes from the software that people use. And as long as you know how to draw your parts and work your way up, then yeah, you can get into the industrial routers fairly easily.
Would you say they're pretty user-friendly?
Absolutely. Yeah, the software has made it really user-friendly. Again, we use standard industry M&G codes that can be used with a variety of different software packages.
And this is why it, you know, translates into the next level of programming,
Exactly.
because it's more or less all the same.
Yes, and you don't necessarily have to start with the hobby router. We have people who have never even run a computer before that buy our machines, and we teach them how to run it and use it, and they get started right away.
I can say firsthand experience, in about 2004 I came here for some of your training, and within a couple of days I went back to Virginia and was able to run the Onsrud router that we were supplied at my company as well. So
Exactly.
Kudos to you guys for being so informative and so user friendly. And the next level of machinery, what is that level good for? Is that more cabinet industry type stuff, or a little bit smaller scale than something like a boat or a Mack truck or something like that?
Exactly. Lighter cutting, you know, plywood, MDF, melamine, stuff like that. Some thinner plastics. Sometimes aluminum, not always aluminum. They just don't have the torque or the rigidity to cut aluminum. So variety of industries there, cabinet, plastics, stuff like that. Smaller shops, not multi-shift jobs. places like that.
And the industrial size, those are the ones you build here.
That's what we build here. Exactly.
So is that, as they call the meat and potatoes of?
That's the meat and potatoes. Those are where our clients are demanding productivity, right? They might run the machine 3 shifts a day just to get as much product through those machines as possible.
And what type of customers would these be? Now we're getting into the larger boats or aerospace or something like these industries with the larger parts?
Yes, and even the cabinet industry where it's high volume, where we get into automation and stuff like that. But we honestly have machines in people's garages. You know, they start off with the best. They start off with an Onsrud, and they're good to go right from the very beginning.